Ready to roll?
You're rolling.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Jen, would you take roll, please?
Commissioner Corbin.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Waldner. Commissioner Phil.
Here.
Mayor Lindsay.
Here. You have attached the minutes of October 19th.
Motion to approve minutes from.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You have before you the agenda for this evening.
I move to approve the agenda for this evening.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Appearances, acknowledgements, and correspondence. First one on the list here is Julie Gross with the Lake Area Improvement Corporation update. Okay.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you. Well, I'll give you an update on what's been happening at the LACC since July. Our spec building is complete, our parking lot is completed, and the landscaping, but we have not put a floor in, and we're just waiting to see when we get a renter or seller before we do that. First Line Funding Group, they're building a gorgeous building on the corner out there. They've got the footings poured. I saw the picture of it today. They'll probably be releasing that later this week, but it's going to be a great building on the corner, just north of Augusta Touch Homes. We did manufacturing tours for all the high school juniors and seniors last week, which was really nice. They visited 5 manufacturing facilities: Gale, Rosebud, Custom Touch, Falcon, and Persona. It's great for them to see all the different careers in manufacturing. So we're excited to participate in that. The housing study that we are partnering with Madison Housing and Redevelopment on should be completed, I would think, within the next month. The mayor spent some time with the gentleman, and so did I, so that will be soon. We needed some new marketing pictures for the industrial park and for our spec building, so we had a drone out there, and so we've got a minute-and-a-half video and some still pictures that are awesome. I'll send them all to you, they're really nice. Our office decided that we should offer an English as a second language class. We didn't have one in town, and we have a lot of Hispanics and other nationalities in Madison, and so we started the class in September, 3 days a week, and it was an 8-week class, and it just completed on Saturday. So that was great. We had 26 register, we had about 18 average attendance, and then we offered childcare, so we had about 10 to 12 kids. And we ended up having a basic class and an intermediate class, and we did it at the high school, and so we used 3 classrooms. And it went very well. They were excited, they were engaged, they wanted to keep going. So tonight, we have another new session starting. So as long as we have the teachers and the students willing to come, we will just keep going with this program. I had applied for a grant, so we got a grant from Advantage South Dakota, and then we got some money from United Way, and then our office. So we'll keep it going as long as we have people interested. But it's we have volunteers doing childcare, and then the teachers will pay me. So. And then last week, I spent some time with a site selector. They're kind of like a headhunter. They select sites for companies. He was from Arizona. It was just kind of a fluke. He happened to be in Madison just for a couple of hours. He had met some people from Madison, and we got hooked up, and so it was great to show him our town, even only for a couple of hours. But he thinks he has some possibilities for our spec building, so I guess we'll see. That's about it. I appreciate your support. The mayor is on our board and comes to our meetings, and we appreciate that. Does any questions?
You said that they are gonna hold up on pouring the floor.
Yeah, we're not gonna do that now.
That's good because it needs a little time for settling.
Yeah.
Well, and then too, we don't know who's gonna be
Yeah.
in there and what they want for, underfloor, utilities, and so it just makes it a lot easier. And the building is heated.
Yeah.
So
And
that
it can
helps,
be
too.
it's designed so that it could be 2 entities at 10,000 square feet. So if we have 2 different businesses, they might want their drains in different places. So we're just waiting.
Mhm.
But I've had interest, just haven't had anybody sign a lease yet. But I'm gonna show it again this week, so I guess as long as we keep showing it, that's what counts.
Okay.
Site selector guy have anything fun to say?
He loved the spec building. He just thought it was very well thought out. He liked it. He thought, he had never been to Madison. He'd never really heard of Madison, of course. He'd only heard of Sioux Falls. And he was very impressed with our community, and he thought there was a lot of growth, and I don't know, he was very impressed. It was fun, because every corner we turned, oh, this is new, oh, this is new. And, you know, we started out by the hospital and just went all around town. So, it was good. It was a short tour, but.
Well, thanks for coming down.
You bet, thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Joey.
it.
Yep.
Okay, Ross is on next, and Ross, I'm going to go ahead and take the lead here in that I haven't visited much with the commissioners here, but go ahead. Ross has asked us to take a look at the sidewalk that was put in on a piece of property and that he purchased. So I spent time at the courthouse and visiting with sheriff and talking with different entities, and in the process, and that we had a reverse mortgage, we had a deceased owner, we had an estate, we had a sheriff's sale, we had a bank repossession, we had a bank reassignment, and then we had Ross as the new purchaser. So to make a long story short, it went through a lot of hands and it got quite complicated, and for the benefit of both the taxpayers and the piece of property he purchased in that, if the commissioners so make a motion in that, I would support a 50-50 split on the cost of the sidewalk.
Is that what you're looking for, Mr. Yeomans?
Well, no. I mean, you know, neither of us should be paying anything. Ultimately, I believe Fannie Mae should have actually, but the problem was this wasn't visible at the time. And that's why I'm kind of, you know, if it had been visible in a timely fashion, and I'm not, you know, as last time we met, Mr. Jenks pointed out, and nobody's making accusations that anyone did anything
No,
wrong.
you didn't do anything wrong, and neither did
And-
the city, and I guess that's where I'm at with the
Yeah, and
50-50.
that's why, because it still comes down to the city's way of doing things. You know, why is it now, the city received the notice, the contractor's application for payment in December of 2014. So the city's aware of this expense, but yet it's September 17th before it's registered. And then the property owner, who ultimately is responsible for it, is even aware of it. And so that's like 10 and a half months.
Normally, the property owners are already aware of what's going on because when they get the notice, they have the opportunity to put it in
Back in the
themselves,
letters
you
and
know,
whatnot.
back in the letters. But in this one here, it was so unique because the person died and the people in the process dropped the ball somewhere. And, you know, where it got dropped, I'm not sure. But that's where, you know, I don't feel that the taxpayers, you know, should cover the 100%. I agree that I don't think you should either. But due to the circumstances and that, you know, I'm willing to split it 50-50, 700 something for you, 700 something to the taxpayers.
Well,
And then
I'll-
move
you know,
forward.
I'll accept that. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here, you know, and try to.
Sure.
Even though, you know, I'd still like to see something changed, you know, because this could occur again.
Well, and it's a rare situation, but typically, in that we don't do the filing till all the homes have been done, so that we do it at one time rather than, you know, one at a
And
time.
that's, yeah, and that's really the thing, whereas it's
Sure.
somewhere, because you have to do it at some point in time. whereas
Right.
What you did here, if that could be done here,
Well, and the other thing is we have a notice time, and we have a time that they have to have it finished by for themselves. If they don't, then the city's contractor comes in. You know, I mean, there's just a lot of spokes in the
and I
wheel.
understand that too, so.
There's a lot of spokes in the wheel, and so, you know, but this one here really had some unusual circumstances that just seemed to, one, complicate the next, which complicated the next, which complicated the next, and so I'm in agreement with you that it is, you know,
Kind of like,
a rare
I
situation.
think I've described it as musical chairs, and it's
Yes.
the city is controlling the music.
Well, not in this case,
In a
no.
sense.
Yeah, no, not in this case, because the city was left out of some notices too, you know, in the process as it went through each of the different steps, you know, and so if you're comfortable with that, you know, then
No, but
I'm gonna, well, and I don't think the taxpayer should pick up the whole
No,
thing
I
either,
understand. Neither of
so,
us should be
you
paying
know.
it, but somebody has to
Right.
pay it, so.
Yep. So, but I can't make a motion, so it takes, a motion from the commissioners and that, to do that, and I'm gonna ask for David if it's something that needs to be done in motion form.
It does.
It does.
Yeah, you're spending money.
So I have just told them what I know, and the other two aren't here, so I'm gonna leave it up to them for questions or comments.
I think the mayor covered it pretty well. Bob, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Then, since I can't make a motion, I would ask one of you what your thoughts are, and if you had a motion you'd like to make.
I make a motion to approve this under one circumstance, that if it's ever happens again with a person passing away and they're doing the sidewalk, we need to get our assessments over to the courthouse before they sell the property after this. So we don't have to go through.
How are we gonna know that?
Huh?
That's,
This whole thing's a process.
yeah, the whole thing's a process, and I appreciate, what you're saying. I don't know who we're speaking to out there, though, in the motion, is all.
I make a motion, we approve the city's share of the sidewalk for Ross.
The motion should indicate the
50-50
percentage or
split.
proportion that we're going to take on. So if you want 1/2, Bob,
One half of the sidewalk assessment value.
And it was like 1421 or 14 something like that, so.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Ross.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Uh-huh. Okay, acknowledge the interim report on the pavement management system. Chad?
Thank you. I don't have a lot to add. It's a rather lengthy report. It's an interim, let me see how it's written in the, annual interim report. We received a first copy about in the first quarter of this year, but we've had some review back and forth and such like that, and then it was somewhat on hold. But we have finalized it. It's available for reading. Again, it's just an interim report. We had asked for this to be provided in our contract with South Dakota State University for this pavement management system as a status tracking tool, so everybody can see what's happening and if there's any questions or concerns that are brought up by the review of it. So I'm not, like I said, it's a couple hundred pages, so I'm not gonna get into the details of it, but I'd be happy to answer questions following the meeting if there's anything, any of me at that time. I don't think acknowledging it, I don't think of anything acknowledge it would negatively
no, we need
impact
to
the report.
acknowledge it.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to acknowledge the annual interim report of the pavement management system.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Acknowledge the August investment report, gross salaries and bills for ratification. Jen, do you have anything to add to that?
You get a twofer here tonight. You'll see August and September is on the agenda for your approval. Cash balances have maintained. You will see, you have approved several designated reserve transfers in the last several months. I don't make those transfers on these sheets here until the dollars have been paid out and the invoices have been submitted, dollars paid out. So with next month, you'll see a handful of designated reserve transfers completed. Okay?
Okay.
Otherwise, cash balance is maintained. No other comments unless you have questions.
Motion to approve investment reports, gross salaries, and bills for ratification for August.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Acknowledge the September investment report, gross salaries and bills for ratification.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under old business, Second reading of ordinance 1573, designation of emergency snow routes.
I move to approve the second reading of the ordinance of 1573 emergency snow routes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under new business, authorize the mayor to sign the option to acquire property from the Lake Area Improvement Corporation for a future water tower site. Chad, would you like to address this?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. This option, I wanted, Ms. Gross is still here, and I'd like to thank her for working with us on this, but this last summer, the commission acknowledged the utility evaluation update report. In that report, one of the recommendations was to start thinking about where and when to put up a new tower. Now, this very well could be, depending on development, of course, if there's a big user or something like that, it could be 10 or even 20 years out. But in that report, it talked about potential location for a tower in the Lakeview Industrial Park. So we approached Ms. Gross and did some coordination with the Utilities Commissioner, and as things went, and of course Fred Snodderly, the Public Works Director, and as things went farther along with Attorney Jinks and others to finalize this option. It's a zero-cost option. You know, the city did early on in the development of the park, work with LACC, so now they have control of it and take it over. We thought as they develop, it'd be good to secure this so that parties that are looking for parcels there can know that this is set aside and so on, and it won't create problems later. We were able to work this out. You can see the signed option from the LAIC board, and I'd like to thank them as well for being very receptive, but this will give us an option to put a tower here at this location in the future. I believe it's for up to 20 years with some extension clauses in here as well. So, and I'd be happy to try to answer any questions. I could try to go over that kind of quick.
It's very good planning for the future, and that identify a site, and then that would, you know, when you look at where the other two towers are, it makes sense for it to be in that location with the hospital nearby and the growth in the lake, the industrial park and that. So I commend you guys for all working together and putting this together so they can start planning, because 20 years goes fast. So, questions or comments? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 2, consider an extension request for the Sidewalk Improvement 2015 with the Madison Central Schools, and this deals with 11th Street. Chad, did you want to address that? Anything further on that?
I just briefly, the request from Business Manager Mitchell Brooks was included in the agenda packet. There's some work up there. They don't want to deal with settling. They've indicated to me in conversations following up this email, their plan is to do that in the spring, and so it'll just be accomplished. It'll just be through this winter. I think it's a reasonable request. I would recommend approving it as requested.
Yeah, it makes sense in that with the new dirt and everything that's up there to give it time to settle and that, so that we aren't dealing next year with broken sidewalks. So, questions or comments?
No? It's
Do we have a
reasonable.
motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the extension request for the sidewalk for 2015 for the Madison Central Schools.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consider sidewalk committee recommendations for the 2016 assessments. Chad, would you like to address that?
Yes, thank you. The Sidewalk Committee has met twice to discuss, as it does annually, I should say, to discuss recommendations for 2016 for areas that they would like to see sidewalks installed in 2016. The typical process is they make, in years past, approximately the last 10 years or so, they would make a recommendation after meeting a couple times and provide a recommendation to the commission where you would take that up and either authorize me to proceed to create draft resolution of necessity. And then at that point also, we send notices out to landowners so before it's approved, so they can come in and provide comments and such like that. I don't believe that hearing and that's a necessary step per the statute, but we do that as a customary thing for courtesy, among other things. So getting into their recommendation now, what they've recommended is to install sidewalks in all areas, 2 blocks from schools. Last year, they started a process where they went 1 block out from each school, and that would be the elementary school, the middle high school, and St. Thomas. Now, the recommendation is to extend that out to 2 blocks from each school. And then we would put in sidewalk ramps only at locations where there's dead ends. We are not putting in all new ADA ramps at all these locations. That would be quite an endeavor. So in an effort to comply with the 1996 plan, where the recommendation was to put in these what was referred to as priority 1 sidewalks, we thought, the sidewalk committee thought it would be appropriate to recommend expanding out from these schools and just getting the sidewalks in, and we can deal with putting in ramps when we have street improvements and so on and so forth. So that's one recommendation, 2 blocks from all the schools. The other 2 areas, the traditional approach, if you will, that they've recommended, that we've used in years past, was where they would select a street or multiple streets, and for those streets, we would put in ADA ramps, compliant ADA ramps in those streets. The combination of this work for the ramps has to stay within the budget that the commission has established in the recent budget cycle, which was $40,000. We believe right now that putting in the ramps will stay under that. And so these 2 areas that they selected would be 4th Street South from Washington to Egan Avenue. That's one of the routes. And the second route would be Egan Avenue from 4th Street South down to 10th Street South. That's the 2 different routes they've selected. One point I'd like to make related to the Egan Avenue route is excluded from their recommendation is installing sidewalk where there's the rec trail in place, because that essentially functions, it's in the public right of way, and it essentially functions as a sidewalk. Now, a side note to that is the commission may have to talk about snow removal requirements on that in the future. There's still some outstanding matters related to that may have to come up, but I just wanted to point that out very briefly. So reiterating, the 40,000, this recommendation should stay within the 40,000 that's been budgeted by the commission. The only other point I would say is there are many city properties that there'd be sidewalks needing to be put in. That comes from a reserve that the city's been adding to in recent years. Up near Northwest Park and along Flynn Field, there's a fair amount of sidewalk the city has to put in. That I estimate at this point in time to be around $35,000, and we have about a little over 40 in reserve, so that would utilize a fair amount of that reserve. Again, you don't have, anything that you decide tonight it doesn't finalize these. This just gives me direction to go, and my staff to go to the courthouse to start looking up deeds for all these properties and incorporating legal descriptions into the resolutions that you'll consider for final approval. If you know for sure that you don't want them, any of these on here, let me know, because that's quite an effort, to look those up. But that's your discretion if you want us to look them up and then bring the final decision after you receive input and such. So, if there's any other questions, I try to answer them now.
You said on South Egan, you're gonna do sidewalk there by Flynn Field, or through the softball diamonds?
That is the recommendation.
Where are you gonna put
Yes, it is. That's right.
where are you gonna put the sidewalk at?
We
You put
will-
it next to the curb, you're gonna have water on top of your sidewalk, cause it lays so flat down through there. And if you put it up in the middle of the parking lot, the law reads that you can't park over a sidewalk, right, David? So there you are, you're gonna lose parking one way or the other.
My suggestion when we looked at that was there's plenty of distance between I'm going to say west, where your front bumper would be for your car, and the fences, and that would be the proper area to run it down there so that we would have both parking, sidewalk, and field.
Okay.
So
That's all
that
I-
was my recommendation.
That's all I was wondering about is the parking for the ball games and stuff down
Right.
there.
Yep.
Okay,
I looked
The
at-
sidewalk on Northwest Park, is that gonna run all the way to Highway 81?
Good question. I'm also planning to omit installation of sidewalk where there's no curb and gutter in place. So that would be along Ninth Street. That actually is consistent with our ordinance that talks about the requirement to install sidewalk when there's lot development. When there's lot development, if there's no curb and gutter in place, the landlord does not have to put in the sidewalk. And so I would submit to you right now that along Ninth Street, there would be no further sidewalk installed going west, because it's all a ditch section. There's
Right.
no curb and gutter there anymore.
that's not gonna go over real well with them from Chicago on west, because I don't think there's sidewalk or curb and gutter on the south side there. We already made them people put sidewalk in.
There is one block, correct?
Yeah,
The one area I'm looking at here, and that I'm going to refer to it as the Williams addition up there on the lots that are not developed yet, that does have a curb in there. Is that an area there where if it's undeveloped, that we would leave it till they develop it, or put the sidewalks in?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Now, what are your thoughts on that?
I draw your attention to the minutes of the sidewalk committee in the agenda packet, where it's written, and the sidewalk committee developed, I'll use this term for lack of a better term, but policy back in October of 2014, where there's a few exceptions to where we would require sidewalk in the school areas, this priority school areas. Not the route selection approach, but the school areas selection approach. And those would exclude development lots. So the idea, as I understand it from past history, is that we don't want to force developers to put in sidewalks. As when they build the house, it'll all be all busted up and tore up. And so development lots are specifically called out in their recommendation as being excluded. And that's consistent with how it was dealt with last year as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to address that again.
Yep. And we're also not having people put it in 2 consecutive years if they're on a corner lot as well. We're leapfrogging and such to try to mitigate the costs burden on property owners on corner lots where there's no sidewalk on either frontage. So those will not be repeat years as well.
Questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to approve the sidewalk committee recommendations for 2016.
second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 4, authorize the mayor to sign change order number 1 with McGuire Iron on the water tower coating improvements. Chad, would you like to address that?
Yes, thank you. This change order extends the deadline for the completion of the coating application for the northeast tower. For various reasons, there's a no-cost change. The contractor agreed to delay it till the spring of next year. We took the west tower out of service a little bit earlier to accomplish some operational priorities that the city had ongoing. And so it's simply delaying it about a half a year or 9 months or so, and then we'll get it coated. Again, no cost change, and the contractor was willing to go along with that.
And it was budgeted for in 2015, and that'll just move forward to 2016.
Yeah, that Jen will have to work with Jen on how that works out, so.
Questions or comments?
Getting recoated next spring for the same price. It'll look beautiful. I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign change order number 1, McGuire Iron Water Tower Coating Improvements.
Second?
This is a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Authorize the mayor to sign the agreement with the American Engineering Testing on geotechnical subsurface exploration. Chad, again, I'll ask you to address this one.
Thank you. This item is related to soil borings and sampling and the testing of those soil borings and recommendations for the upcoming airport project. These are reimbursable at the same rates that the entire project essentially is reimbursable, which is about 5% city at this time, and the rest is federal and state. This is just another step in the process, but it's necessary for us to enter into the agreement with these folks directly, rather than a sub-agreement through KLJ.
And this is for the parallel taxiway out at the airport
Yep, and wetland work.
and wetland
mitigation as well.
mitigation. Okay.
I move to approve the signing agreement of the American Engineering Testing for the subsurface.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 6, authorize the mayor to sign the agreement with David Jenks Legal Services and that for another year.
My agreement, Bob's a little easier to read, the one before that. I had a 2-year agreement with the city.
Hmm?
That agreement's up on December 31st. I've submitted a proposal to do another 2 years.
2 years?
2 years.
I authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Mr. David Jenks for legal services.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 7, declare as surplus property, appoint appraisers, set bid date, bid number 840 for insulated aluminum and copper wire and miscellaneous. And Mr. Corbin, I'm going to ask you if you want to address this one, since I think that's in your department.
Well, we have some surplus wire and whatnot, poles from the upgrade project this summer, a little bit more than normal. So, going to be asking for some bids for it. But we've done this several other times in smaller amounts, so nothing out of the ordinary.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to, let's see here, declare surplus property and appoint appraisers, Commissioner Jeremiah Corbin, Brad Lawrence, and Chad Comas, and set a bid date for, what's my bid date?
18th of November.
November 18th. Bid number 840, insulated aluminum and copper wire, miscellaneous items.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You have attached bills for approval.
I move to approve the bills.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You also have attached bills for ratification.
Motion to ratify the bills.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You also have attached personnel adjustments.
I move to approve the personnel adjustments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Announcements and other business, and that if you saw in the paper and that the dog pound is being moved and that, and a new building will be built. And there was a person who had left some money behind, up to $25,000 that could be used for matching money. So anyone that is so inclined in that, you can make your checks out to the city of Madison, right on that, dog pound, and however many dollars we collect will be how many dollars that estate will provide also for the building of a new dog pound. And so without that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you for everyone. Do you have any questions? You're sure?